Cruz. On a quiet afternoon in the Miami suburb of Parkland, Florida, the lives of students and staff at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School were forever changed. On February 14, 2018, 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz unleashed a terrifying shooting spree, killing 17 people and injuring 17 others. It was the deadliest high school shooting in American history, surpassing even the infamous Columbine High School tragedy that took place in Colorado in 1999. Cruz, a former student at the school, fled the scene on foot, disguised as one of the other students. However, he was apprehended by police just an hour later in a nearby town. Investigations revealed that Cruz had a troubling history of disciplinary issues and disturbing behavior. There have always been debates and arguments about gun reform and regulation, and this incident only increased them. The students' tireless efforts paid off when Florida Governor Rick Scott signed a bill in March 2018 that added further restrictions on gun regulations and allowed teachers with the appropriate training to carry firearms on school premises. The Broward County Sheriff's Office also came under intense scrutiny for its handling of the situation, with accusations of ignoring warning signs and failing to act swiftly to stop the shooting. As a result, several officers resigned, and Sheriff Scott Israel was ultimately dismissed from his position. The state governor set up a panel to investigate the tragedy and recommend stronger security measures for schools statewide. For Cruz, he was charged with 17 counts of premeditated first-degree murder and 17 counts of attempted first-degree murder. He pled guilty to all charges related to the shooting in October 2021, expressing remorse for his actions.
I am very sorry for what I did, and I have to live with it every day. And that if I were to get a second chance, I would do everything in my power to try to help others. And I am doing this for you, and I do not care if you do not believe me. And I love you, and I know you don't believe me, but I have to live with this every day. And it brings me nightmares, and I can't live with myself sometimes.
The prosecution requested the death penalty.
Not now the death penalty, then when? When?
Leading to a 4-month trial beginning in July 2022. After numerous setbacks, including delays caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, a jury unanimously recommended the death penalty. However, they finally recommended a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Cruz was sentenced to 34 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole in November 2022. He accepted his sentence and apologized for his actions. His apologies, no matter how sincere it might be, cannot bring back the dead. That lesson was well learned by Devin Erickson.
How many shooters do you have? Two. Just two.
Why? He was making me give him all the stuff and then just me. I was just supposed to watch it. There's only one who's gonna let me live.
This is Devin Erickson. On May 7th, 2019, a suburban Colorado high school was rocked by a tragic shooting.
Honor is that shooter still shooting. Into the shot, yes. Okay, do we know how many? At least 3 people I know have been injured. Okay. Do we have a description on him? Do we have a description of the shooter? Devin Erickson? Okay.
18-year-old Kendrick Castillo lost his life, and 8 others were injured in the assault carried out by Devin Erickson, then 18 years old, and his accomplice, 16-year-old Alec McKinney. The pair had spent weeks plotting and planning their attack. After hearing emotional testimony from survivors, Judge Teresa Michelle Slade handed down a life sentence without the possibility of release for Erickson. Addressing Erickson in court, Slade remarked that she didn't believe there was anything she could say that would make a difference. Prosecutors argued that Erickson and McKinney had chosen a pitch-black classroom where students were watching a movie to maximize their attack's devastation. They claimed that the pair intended for McKinney to die, either by suicide or at the hands of his accomplice. Despite the darkness and chaos, Castillo and 2 other students, Joshua Jones and Brendan Biley, bravely rushed Erickson as his gun jammed, stopping the massacre. A security officer was then able to detain McKinney. During the sentencing hearing, Erickson's father, Jim Erickson, addressed the court and apologized to the community. He read out the names of the victims and apologized to everyone.
There's a large number of injured students that were impacted by the actions of that day. So I'll start with Lucas Albertoni, Stephen Bartoni, Jackson Gregory. Those are people that will I don't know how they'll ever forget what happened to them, and they'll have physical and emotional scars for the rest of their lives. And we're so sorry for that.
Despite his family members speaking on his behalf, Erickson remained silent throughout much of the trial. When given the opportunity to speak, he chose not to explain or justify his actions. Still, some people believe that the blame for the tragedy should be shared equally between the shooters and the classmates who bullied them. Eventually, Erickson was found guilty of first-degree murder and 45 additional crimes related to the attack. Although McKinney was sentenced to life in prison as a minor, he may be eligible for parole in 20 years. Erickson remained unmoved when he heard his sentence. In fact, the only time he showed emotion during the trial was when his family testified that they loved him. Bullying could be the reason for shooting, but despite that, the rule of law is sacrosanct, and that was made obvious by Sky Boucher. This is Sky Boucher. On April 20th, 2018, 19-year-old Sky Boucher opened fire at Forest High School in Ocala, Florida, injuring one student. Boucher's shooting occurred on the 19th anniversary of the Columbine High School massacre in Colorado, the same day as a national student walkout to protest gun violence. After the shooting, Boucher was arrested just 3 minutes later by a school resource officer. Investigations revealed Boucher concealed the shotgun in a guitar case when he brought it into the school. He went to the bathroom to put on a tactical vest and gloves before firing at a locked door.
There's no one to stop me like I thought there would be. And I just got into the bathroom. I took my time putting on my gloves, my tactical vest.
Boucher surrendered to one of his former teachers and said he wanted to be arrested because he was mentally ill. Boucher later admitted that he had experienced neglect, violence, and mental illness since childhood and just wasn't having a good day. His intentions were to be away from everyone else so he would not hurt anyone else. He claimed he lost the push to continue after seeing a student, but he shot at the door because he knew he needed help and would snap one day.
I'm about to just do something, and I spend most of my time in a room alone, so I'm getting this rush, so that's what.
Unfortunately, a 17-year-old student was on the other side of the door and the bullet hit him. Luckily, it wasn't a fatal injury. Boucher was charged with terrorism, aggravated assault with a firearm, carrying a concealed firearm, and armed trespass on school property. Boucher was sentenced to 30 years imprisonment, but must serve 25 years before being considered for parole. He was also given an additional 30 years of probation and ordered to pay restitution. Did Boucher make a great decision? Only time will tell. Next is TJ Lane. This is TJ Lane. The morning of February 27th began like every regular day, until it didn't. At least for students of Chardon High School, Chardon, Ohio. 17-year-old Thomas TJ Lane, a Lake Academy Alternative School student and former student of Chardon High, used a .22 caliber handgun to attack students. He shot at 6 students. By the time he was done, 3 were dead, while the rest sustained horrific injuries. In fact, one of the victims was permanently paralyzed. Witnesses said the shooter had a personal rivalry with one of the victims. Before the end of the day, he was arrested by police. Lane was charged with 3 counts of aggravated murder, 2 counts of aggravated attempted murder, and 1 count of felonious assault. Because he was a minor, he was held at a juvenile facility, while the court decided if he should be tried as a minor or as an adult. There were also questions about his mental capacity to stand trials. In May 2012, the court ruled that he was competent to stand trial, and before the end of June, the court decided to try him as an adult. Throughout the trial, Lane appeared unshaken and unremorseful. He frequently smirked and smiled at the victims' families throughout the trial. On the day of his sentencing, Lane came to court with a white shirt with the word "killer" scrawled on the front, a sick reference to the cloth he wore on the day he shot up the school, which also had the word "killer." Following a lengthy trial, Lane pleaded guilty to all the charges in March 2013. He was sentenced to 3 consecutive life terms without parole. When he learned his fate, he cursed the victims' families and gave them and everyone in the court the middle finger. The next year, Lane and 2 other inmates broke out of Allen Correctional Institution in Lima, Ohio. However, he and his group were captured the next day and transferred to a maximum security prison. Lane's case is that of a teen who took the wrong lane, just like Caleb Sharp.
Scars in their bodies and their minds that I can never erase or take back. And most of all, I am sorry to Amy and Emily for taking Sam from them.
This is Caleb Sharp. Sharp was a 15-year-old student, a quiet young man with a soft voice. He was known for his YouTube channel under Mungo Walker, where he posted videos filled with anti-feminist memes, gun-related content, and fake shootouts. But no one could have predicted the horror that he was about to unfold. It was a day that changed the lives of many forever. September 13th, 2017 started like any other day at Freeman High School in Spokane, Washington. But it quickly became a nightmare when one of its own, Caleb Sharp, entered the building with a large bag of weapons and ammunition. Sharp tried to use his handgun, but it jammed, preventing him from loading it. That's when Sam Strawn, a fellow student, bravely confronted him. Unfortunately, it was a fatal mistake. Sharp shot Strawn with a revolver, killing him instantly. The shooter continued firing, injuring 3 other students, before being stopped by a school janitor. According to reports, Sharp was dealing with mental health problems, including depression and untreated ADHD. He had written 2 suicide notes and become increasingly withdrawn before the incident. The emotional abuse from his father and feelings of loneliness only added to his troubles. The fact that his family had moved around a lot and his step-siblings had left the house had also taken a toll on him. After a long legal process, Sharp was sentenced to 40 years in prison for the shooting. It was a tragic end to a young life with so much potential. But it also served as a reminder that mental health and emotional support are crucial for everyone, especially teenagers who are still trying to navigate their way in the world.
Shocking in its scope that a child in this day and age who was really crying out for help was allowed to carry out such a heinous crime when the writing was pretty much on the wall for everyone to see, but no one seriously looked. As counsel correctly pointed out, lots of kids have an IEP. Lots of kids are depressed and confused at what is already likely a turbulent time in their lives. Lots of kids have ADHD, but they don't go shoot up a school.
Sharp showed no reaction when the video of his action was played in court and when he was handed his sentence, but he did apologize to the community and his victims.
Scars in their bodies and their minds that I can never erase or take back. And most of all, I am sorry to Amy and Emily.